Good morning, everyone. How are y'all today? So I wanted to come to you all with a quick message this morning about counting yourself out. Don't count yourself out because you've made a lot of mistakes, or because you're not perfect, or because you keep trying to work on a certain area and you're not really seeing any progress or success, and you feel like, man, I'm such a failure. I can't seem to get this right. And I'm speaking this to you because, as I always say, you have to preach or teach according to where you are. And at this stage in my life, I'm going through a lot of change, a lot of transformation, a lot of transition from one place to the next, from one season to the next. And so I find myself a lot of time kind of kicking myself in the butt about things, and I'm like, dang, I know better than that. I shouldn't did that's something I would have did years ago, or I can't believe I still don't have control in this area, or I can't believe that I'm still making this same mistake or messing up. And the amazing thing about God is that in those moments when you are being hard on yourself, and when you're kicking yourself in the tail, and when you're frustrated with yourself, He reminds you, hey, I love you regardless of what you've done. I love you regardless of what mistakes you're making, or what your shortcomings are, or how you've fallen. And we've got to get an understanding that we can't count ourselves out simply because we've made mistakes or because we're imperfect. Because the truth of the matter is that God has a plan for all of us, no matter how bad we've been, no matter where we've been, what we've done, how hard we've fallen. God still has a plan for our life. He tells us in the book of Jeremiah 29:11, that I know the plans that I have for your life, plans to prosper you, plans for an intended end, not to harm you. And so when God says, I have plans for you and a plan for your intended end, nothing that you can do between the beginning and end of your life can stop the plan that God has on your life. The book of Romans tells us that nothing can separate us from the love of God. And so what God means is, when He says, I know the plans I have for your life, He means that I'm sovereign. So no matter what you do, I'm not going to stop loving you. Jeremiah 31:3 or 33:3, something like that. But in the book of Jeremiah, He says, I have loved you everlastingly, with an everlasting love. So I will continue to be faithful to you. And what that means is that no matter how bad you've been, no matter what mistakes you've made, no matter what you've done, the wrong you've done, I'm still going to love you, because I love you with an everlasting love. That means it's unchanging. That means it's unconditional. That means it's unwavering and unshakable. Nothing can separate you from God's love. I've done some horrible things in my life, y'all. Some things that should have had me counted out a long time ago. But the beauty of our God is that He is a God of grace, and His mercies are new every day. And He's constantly taking us from glory to glory. And because He has so much love for us, and He has a plan for our lives, and because Christ died, we just got done with Easter, and we know that Christ died on the cross for us to be able to be forgiven and to have chance after chance after chance. And we ought to be grateful that God is not giving us what we deserve, and that He's not counting us out. And so you got to stop beating yourself up, especially when you find yourself like where I'm at, going from one season to the next, and I'm facing a lot of kind of new experiences, things that are frustrating me daily, because I still have some character flaws. I still have some issues in my life. Hello, somebody. You're not perfect just because God begins to use you and work in your life. You're not perfect just because God begins to bless you and elevate you. I'm not perfect. I still have things in me that need to be worked on. I still have character flaws. I still have an attitude problem. I still have all kind of things inside of me that are not perfect, that are wrong, and to be honest, should count me out. But because of the God that we serve, I haven't been counted out. He's still got a plan for my life. And no matter what you do, God's plan for your life is not going to change simply because you're making mistakes, or you've done a couple of wrong things, or whatever the case may be. And so what you got to understand is, no matter what it is that you do, that God is not going to stop loving you. He's not going to give up on you. And so you shouldn't give up on yourself simply because you've made some mistakes. Y'all, I've been to jail. I have done all kind of things. I've been an alcoholic. I have done things that you wouldn't even think I've done. And you look at where I'm at, it doesn't actually look like that's anything that I've been through. And that's because we really do serve a God that is in the restoration business, and He is very much so, able above and beyond anything that we think, or anything that we believe he's able to do above and beyond. And so that means the things that we can't forgive ourselves for, he's already forgiven us for. And so what you have to think about is you have to say, okay, if God, the God of the universe that does not need me, can forgive me for my mistakes and for my falling, why can't I forgive myself? If God can look at me and say, you know what, you've been in jail, you've stolen, you've been on drugs, you've been an alcoholic, you made some bad decisions, you've lost some good jobs because you wouldn't go to work like you were supposed to, you've made some mistakes, you've done some horrible things, but I still love you and I still have a plan for you. And if God can say that about you, and God does not need you, but he loves you enough to have a plan for your life, then you need to love yourself enough to say, you know what, all right, I messed up, I failed, let me get back up. Last week for me was a very off week because I had a lot of new stuff flying at me and I had a lot of old stuff chasing me. And the thing about the in-between of when you're going from where you used to be to where God is taking you, you're going to have new things flying at you and old things chasing you, and it's going to put you in a place of frustration, and you can begin to feel depressed if you allow yourself to. But the one thing that I held on to was, you know what, I'm having a bad week, I'm really pissed off all week, and I excuse my language, y'all, but you got to be real sometimes. You have to say, I'm really pissed off this week. I'm really frustrated this week. I feel like nothing is going right, and then as soon as something goes right, something goes wrong. I feel like my attitude is off. I feel like I'm mean, and that's not even who I am nowadays. That's who I used to be. I feel like I'm thinking about stuff I shouldn't be thinking about, stuff that happened to me that's been over with, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about it again. Understand that when you're near your destiny, when God is taking you where you're supposed to be going, your past will never chase you harder than when you're moving forward, than when you're making progress. And so my past all week long and my mind last week was chasing me at the same time as my future was coming into contact with me, and new things were hitting me. And I'm like, I ain't never been through this. How am I supposed to handle this? And I started getting really frustrated, and I was being kind of snippy with people, and I was being kind of like my old self, and I was so frustrated. And at the end of the week, I was like, man, God, I really screwed up. Like, I really messed up, you know, because I've allowed my flesh to get a hold of me. Instead of me walking in the spirit this week, I've been so frustrated by my circumstances and by things that are flying at me that I have allowed my flesh to take hold this week. God, I don't feel like I'm still worthy. I might as well go and throw in the towel, because everything you were working on for me, I just messed it up. And God said, girl, get a hold of yourself. I have a plan for you. My plan is sovereign. My plan does not move. My plan does not shake. You might have fallen and had a bad week, but I'm still on the throne. I have not fallen. I have not had a bad week. My plan has not changed just because you have acted a fool this week in your flesh. I still love you just the way you are. Now, all I really need you to do is forgive yourself, because I've already forgiven you, and you wasting time. The more you sit in your pity and you wallow about your mistakes and the things you've done, the more you kick yourself in the butt, the more you get frustrated with yourself, the longer you're going to stay stuck. And so God said, get up. Get up, dust it off. It's all right. So you failed, dust it off. So you had a bad attitude, dust it off. So you backslid a little bit, dust it off. Get up and grab my hand and let's move forward. He tells us in the book of Isaiah that I will hold your right hand, saying, do not fear, I will help you. And he said, get up. I didn't create you to fall like this. I know you're frustrated with yourself, and I know this is not who you are. I know this is who you used to be, and I know you're a little mad right now. You got an attitude and you want a little bit of pity because you're frustrated, but too bad. Get back up. You all right. I haven't stopped loving you. I still have a plan for your life. I'm still blessing you. I'm still moving you. I still have things sitting in front of you that I need you to go and get, and you can't do that if you don't forgive yourself. See, what we think as because we have not forgiven ourselves, that God has not forgiven us. God has forgiven you, and the Bible says that when God forgives you, he forgives instantly. So you still on your knees praying for forgiveness for something and mad at yourself about something that God is like, I don't even remember that because I forgave you about it the minute that it happened and you asked me for forgiveness, and the only one of us that's still stuck on it is you. So I need you to get up. I need you to forgive yourself, dust it off, realize that you're not perfect and you're not going to be perfect until God comes back and, you know, takes us all where we need to be. That's when you're going to finally be perfect. Like, that's when you will have arrived. That's when you will be transformed and be completely and totally, you know, arrived. But until then, this is an everyday walk. You will have days where you are in your feelings and you don't understand why. You will have days where you got an attitude and you're upset and you're frustrated and you don't know why. That's the fight between the spirit and the flesh. It's that your spirit knows better, and your spirit is like, all right, this is not you. You need to calm down. You're tripping. But your flesh is so frustrated by everything going on around you. So your flesh is pulling in one direction and your spirit is pulling in the other, and you're in the middle frustrated like, what is going on? I've lost all control. So last week I was kicking myself in the butt every day because I'm like, why am I thinking about this? Like, I got over this years ago, and I'm sitting here sad and frustrated about it. And the spirit said, you're frustrated about it because your feelings are all over the place. You're mad at yourself. So now you're going back, picking up old mistakes, carrying that load and that burden, and you don't have to carry it anymore. And you really are the only one frustrated at yourself. And so we've got to realize that we don't count ourselves out. God has not counted you out just because you've made mistakes. If we look in the Bible and we look at, I always talk about it because it's one of my favorite transformations in the Bible, and that is how Saul became Paul. Saul was killing Christians. He was persecuting them. He was murdering them. He was unrightfully accusing them and things like that. And God ended up taking a man who had so much filth in his life, who had done so much wrong, and transforming him so greatly that he wrote most of the New Testament, that he is one of the greatest known disciples and apostles in the kingdom and in the gospel. And so if God could take somebody like that and forgive him and use him that greatly, then you have to understand that God could take you and use you greatly. And so don't count yourself out because you've messed up or you've made some mistakes. It's okay. God still has a plan for your life. So if you're somewhere today and you're going through something and you're frustrated and you feel like, man, ain't no way God could use me, pick yourself up, forgive yourself, and dust yourself off, because God has already forgiven you, and he's waiting on you to forgive yourself so that he can continue moving you in a direction. God said he's taking you from glory to glory. That means he's going to take you further tomorrow than he's taking you today. You might fall tomorrow, but you have the ability through Christ to get back up and say, you know what? It was a bad day. I messed up, but hey, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. So either I can sit here and I can wallow about the mistakes I made, or I can get up and I can say, all right, God, last night was a bad night. I did some stuff I didn't have no business, but forgive me and help me get up and move forward today, because that's the spirit that we have to have. The Bible is not just about us forgiving people. It's about us forgiving ourselves too. And you've got to have a spirit to say, I'm not perfect and I'm not going to be perfect, but it is possible for me to get up and move forward. I'm not going to change overnight, and I'm not going to become a new person like overnight. That's a process and it takes time. And so you can't be frustrated with yourself when you mess up, or you like have a slip up or a relapse or whatever you want to call it. You have to just continue to move forward and say, I know that I've made these mistakes and I know that I've done these things, but it's possible that I can move forward from this moment, and then maybe tomorrow I can make a little bit more progress, and maybe the day after that I can make a little bit more progress. But you're not going to be transformed just overnight and wake up and be a whole new person, and everything that you struggled with and everything that you messed up is going to be fixed overnight. Y'all, for right now, 7-8 years later, I'm still cleaning up messes I made when I was 18. And that's because change is a process. It's not something that you just wake up and you're like, oh my God, I'm perfect. I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to sleep around anymore. I don't want to pop pills anymore. I don't want to do this or that anymore. Whatever your vice is, whatever your issue is, this is not something that you're just gonna wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm over it. No, it's a process, and it's gonna take time for you to get over it. And so you got to be willing to be comfortable with being imperfect and being uncomfortable and walking through your process of healing and renewing. And so I don't know if this message helped anybody today, but I know that it's something that I've been dealing with. And so I felt like if I'm dealing with it, there's got to be other people that are going through the same thing, and they may need to hear that, hey, it's okay. You can get back up. You're not perfect. You're not going to be perfect, but you can get back up. So I just wanted to share that this morning and let you know, if you messed up, it's not too late. God still has a plan for your life. Get up, stop whining, forgive yourself, dust off, and keep going.